Okay, this video is going to take you through problem number 2 on the nested loop practice as we prepare for the loop test. And so we go to the first line of code and we see that we are declaring A, B, and C, and then D is initialized to be 4. So we have that right now. We go to the loop and A is assigned 0. And so we'll put an 0 in the memory location. If 0 is less than 4, then we're going to go into the loop, which it is. So we go into the nested loop, and so we do another for loop. Now it says B is assigned D. So D is 4, so B is assigned 4. If B is greater than A, which is 4 greater than 0, which it is, then we jump into this loop. Now we're going to print a space. So this is just printing a space. And then it's a print statement, not print ln, so the insertion point is going to stay there. So we'll go down here and we'll press the space bar once. And then we'll indicate where I think, how's this going to work? Okay, there is, how are we going to make this work? Okay, so I think I figured out how to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this red line and make it be the insertion point. So press the space bar once. And so the thing is, this started out was B greater than A, which was 4 greater than 0. Okay, so we printed a space, so here we are right now, and the insertion point is right here. And then we go back to the for loop and we subtract 1 from B. And so B now becomes 3. And so then the question is, now is 3 greater than 0? And it is, so we go in here and print another space. So we're going to go down here and we're going to press the space bar. So now the space bars, or the insertion points, moved over 1. And then if we go back to the update for B, and B becomes 2. And of course, now 2 is getting closer to 0, so you can see how that's operating. So 2 is greater than 0 still, of course, so we're going to do the space bar one more time. There. And now we go back and update, and B becomes 1. 1 is still greater than 0, so we jump into the loop and press another space. So do another space. So here we are. I'm going to press the space bar. There. And then we go back up, update, B becomes 0. Okay, now 0 is not greater than 0. So now we're going to jump out of the loop, or kick out, whatever, and then we're going to go to the next thing. The next thing happens to be another nested for loop. So now we have 0, C equal to 0, and it's saying, or C is assigned 0. Is C less than or equal to A? Now A at this point is 0, and C is 0, and C is less than or equal to 0. 0 is less than or equal to 0 because it's equal to. So it's going to jump into the loop and print an X. So at this point, then down here, we are going to print an X. I better make sure that I did this right. So it should have gone through 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So spacebar 1, 2, 3, 4, and then print X. So that is correct. So we'll make this red. And it was supposed to be bigger. I don't know what happened. Alright, so That's interesting. I thought I made this larger. So we're going to make it larger. Alright, so then, as we get down here then, we printed the x and then we got to the end, and so we go to C and we're going to increment C. And so C then becomes 1 because it's get incremented. And 1 is not less than or equal to 0, so we kick out of the loop and go to this line of code. Now this line of code says to press the insertion or the enter key. And so what happens then is we go, the insertion point goes down to the next line down. So there it is, resting at the beginning. So now what's going to happen then is we go back. We're at the end of the outside loop and we're going to go back to the for. And we're going to go to A plus plus. And so A gets incremented to 1. So now we go here and is 1 less than 4. And now you can see what's going to happen is this is going to become 2 and then become 3. And then it's at 4 it's going to stop the outer loop. But right now 1 is less than 4, so it jumps into this loop again. Now remember this, we are revisiting this for loop. We are revisiting it, so we start all over. That's a key statement. So B is assigned whatever D is. So it's going to start with 4 again. And so we're going to actually remove this and start at 4. And is B greater than A? Well, B is 4. Now last time A was 0, so you can see that with this being 1, we're going to actually reach the end of this for loop sooner by 1, because it's going to go down from 4, and then once it gets to 1, it's going to actually stop. So we're going to print, it's going to go like this, and we'll just do this really quickly. Hopefully you don't need to go through this, but it's going to go, when B is 4, it's going to go and do the space, and then B is going to get decremented to 3, so it'll go do another space, and then it gets decremented to 2. Now how in the world did that happen? That doesn't even make sense. Sheesh. Alright, so 2, and 2 is still greater than 1, so it goes through again, and then it becomes 1, and 1 is not greater than 1, so it'll stop the loop. So in other words, we're going to print 1, 2, 3 spaces. It's going to print 3 spaces. So we're going to come down here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces. Okay, and then so it's going to be when it's 4, when it's 3, when it's 2, but when it's 1 it stops the loop, so it doesn't print another space. So now what happens is we're going to go kick out of the loop and go to the next loop. So here C is going to be, since we're revisiting it, we're actually going to start over. And so we're going to assign C to be 0, and then is C, which is 0, is 0 less than or equal to 1? Now remember, last time it was 0 is less than or equal to 0, so it only lasted one time. This is going to last another time. So since 0 is less than 1, we jump into this loop and we go print an X. Now the thing I didn't mention last time, which is going to be more important this time, is that this is printing X and a space. And so down here where the insertion point is, we're going to print an X and a space. And then we go to the update, and C gets incremented to 1. Now 1 here is less than or equal to 1, so it's going to go through the loop again. And so it's going to print X and a space again. The space won't really matter because we're not going to see it, but we'll go, oh, that was not right. We're going to go down here. We're going to print the X and a space, and then C. So we just did this, so now we're going to go back up to the update, and C becomes 2. 2 is not less than or equal to A, so jumps out, kicks out, prints, or it hits the enter key. So now we're down here, it hits the enter key. And then we're at the end of this loop. And so we go back to the for loop and increment A. So A becomes 2. And so now is 2 less than 4? Which it is, and so it's going to go through again. And once again, we're going to start all over. So this is actually going from 2, now we're at 2 is less than 4. So we go in here and we start all over because we're revisiting. And so B is going to be assigned to be 4. And then is B greater than A? So now is 4 greater than 2? So because we could spend a lot of time on this, the idea here is you're going to go another time more than the previous one. So we're or one less actually. And so in this case, we are going to go when X is 4. Let's write that in here. When B, it says, is 4 greater than 2. So it'll work when B is 4 and when it's 3, but not when it's 2. So it's going to go through 2 times. So that means that down here, we're going to hit the space bar twice. 1, 2. And then 3 and make it kick out and go to the next loop. So here we are at the next loop. And C is reset to be 0. So we'll just do it like this, make it go faster. So C is now set to be 0 again. And so is 0 less than or equal to A, and A is 2. So it'll work when C is 0, when C is 1, and when C is 2. So as you can see, it's going to go through 3 times. So 3 times is going to print an X and a space. So we'll go down here where the insertion point was, X space, X space, X space. There we are. And so then this loop will stop, and then we'll go down and hit the enter key. Boom. And so now we have A becomes 3, and 3 is less than 4. And so it's going to print, it's going to go down in here, and B is assigned to be D, so it's going to be start at 4 again. And the question is 4 greater than 3, which it is. So this will work. This loop will now go through when it's 4, when B is 4, but when it's 3 it'll stop it, so it's only going to go one time through. So it's only going to print one space. So we'll go down here, press spacebar once, and then go down to this next for loop. C is established to be 0. is 0 less than or equal to A, which is 3. And so you can see here then that it will go through when C is 0, 1, 2, and 3. All three of those will make this a true Boolean expression. So that means it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 times through the loop. So 4 times it's going to print X and a space. And so we're going to go down here, go X space, X space, X space, X space. So there's your 4. So now we're done with the, well, then this is going to go down, it's going to hit the Enter key. And there's the insertion point there. And now we go back up. And A becomes 4. Now 4 is going to stop the loop. So it's done. So this is what it's going to print. And there you have it.